Welcome to a 10-1-10 review. My name is Nessa and today we're talking about Winter Burrow, developed by Pine Creek Games, and how I felt after playing the game for 10 minutes, 1 hour, and 10 hours. This is a shorter version of my 10-1-10 review, which has the added component of needing to finish the 1 year mark in game. Winter Burrow does not use a calendar system, so that's why it's in this format. As a person who does not have a lot of time to play games, I think that first impressions are super important, and the first 10 minutes and an hour of a game should give you the basic rundown of what it has to offer. Additionally, bringing it all together through my experiences by 10 hours should hopefully give you insight on whether or not this game is for you. I won't be rating Winter Burrow on a scale, as I personally believe that number scores might discourage you from trying out the game yourself if I don't rate something at a perfect 10. So I will definitely talk about my experiences and what I liked about the game and wished it did differently instead to hopefully help you off the fence. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Winter Burrow is described as a cozy woodland survival game where you control a little mouse who returns to their childhood burrow. In this game, you can explore the region around the burrow to gather resources to help you with your crafting, knitting, and cooking, all which goes towards your survival in the game. Winter Burrow is available on PC, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox systems for $19.99 USD. I played this game exclusively on the PC with a keyboard, so my review based on performance bugs and controls are specifically for the PC and keyboard. I'm not sure how the game runs on the Nintendo Switch or Xbox at this time. You play as an unnamed mouse who is returning to their childhood burrow after some time in the city. The burrow is quite dilapidated, so it's up to you to restore it and also explore the regions around you to find your ants and help other woodland creatures. As of this review, I finished the story and the quests that are available to me. The beginning of the game starts off with your mouse's backstory and how they returned back to their childhood home. Upon arriving, you instantly feel the coldness of winter and get to making your little burrow a bit warmer through the tutorial. The tutorial does not hold your hand, so you do have to know basic controls in order to move around and get close enough to an object to prompt the keyboard shortcut reminder. So if you're entirely new to playing a game and using a keyboard, then you might struggle a little bit if you do not know the WASD movement keys. However, if you're using a controller, I can see why the movement tip is not needed, because it does seem pretty intuitive and common sense to start using the directional pad to move your character. In the game, you have 4 different meters to be wary of, which include your health, warmth, hunger, and stamina. The tutorial does not go over any of these meters, although since I've played survival games before, it was easy to discern which one did what. I don't necessarily think that there needs to be an explanation for what each one does in the beginning, since you can go into your menu and see what they clearly do in the stats tab. As you play the game, the meters will also decrease depending on what you're doing, so it is very simple for you to make an educated guess on what the meters do and react appropriately. During the 10 minutes, the tutorial had me going outside of my burrow to gather some resources. I like that you can pin recipes to your UI so that you know how many materials you need to craft that item. About 5 minutes in, my mouse started to get cold, and this was visually told to the player through ice forming on the screen. Whenever this happens, you have to run back to your cozy burrow or another warm place. Later in the game, you do have access to warmer clothes and foods that you can use to warm you up. However, for now, you really can't go too far away from the burrow due to the cold and also due to your limited inventory space. I found myself running back to use my storage chest and get warm. That did encourage me to make a little table and chair to decorate the burrow. I like that you're able to place your crafted furniture wherever you want, so the burrow has a mixture of things that you cannot move and things that you crafted and can move around. Since I wasn't done with the tutorial in the 10 minutes I was playing, I definitely was eager to continue my adventures in order to reach my goal. Even though I was not very far in the game at this point, I definitely could see the formation of the gameplay loop where my mouse would have to venture outside of the burrow into the cold to collect resources and then bring it back to craft items to help me survive a little bit longer. beginning of the 1 hour and the end of it were pretty different for me. In the beginning, I felt as though I was struggling quite a bit with figuring out where to find materials so I could craft items. This was probably user error since there was a quest to craft rope, and I kept thinking that I needed to knit it, so I was confused on why I didn't have the recipe unlocked. However, after making copious amounts of yarn balls, I found the recipe for the rope at the work table. I vaguely remember this being the same issue I had in the demo, so it's something that still got me as I played the full version. I had to remind myself to check all of the tabs in the crafting menu so I don't miss anything. I did notice that the scroll feature in this game is a little wonky, so it was hard for me to navigate these crafting menus effectively, and this could have also resulted in me not being able to find the rope when I checked the work table the first time. Once I got the hang of things, my experience started to get way better as I was able to progress the story a bit more. I started to get the hang of foraging in the wild and making sure that I returned home at a decent time to not freeze. I was able to make the beginner clothes to withstand the wilderness just a little bit longer, allowing me to explore more of the map. I repaired the bridge and was able to reunite with my aunt, who taught me how to make snowshoes, which allowed my little mouse to move 10% faster than before. My aunt also had the key to the basement where you can plant mushrooms so you don't have to forage for them in the wild. I was able to make my shovel and started foraging little snow piles, which seems to give random items. So it was super fun for me to dig one up and see what I would get. With the inventory right now severely limited, my little mouse was not able to hold a lot of things without having to run back home and depositing what I wasn't using in my storage chest. During this time, I also made more furniture and I was able to decorate my little burrow even more. I like that you can find recipes in the wilderness, and I found 2 different bed variations while exploring. So I do like that you can make your burrow look the way that you want so early in the game. After an hour, keeping it spoiler free as possible, an unfortunate incident had me braving the wilderness once more. I finally was able to access the pickaxe, and at this point I was energized to continue playing and seeing where the story would take me. This was the furthest that I've gone from my burrow without going back, and it felt so good to be out in the wilderness without needing to run back home every so often. There were checkpoints in the way that allowed me to get back my warmth that I was losing through this exploration. The game also started to introduce me to new characters, so I really didn't feel like a little mouse all alone in the wilderness anymore. My world was expanding, and I couldn't wait to continue seeing where the story would lead me. After 1 hour, and of course before I finished the game, I did encounter enemies during my adventures. Enemies in this game come in the form of different bugs such as beetles and spiders. There aren't many enemy variations, and they don't have different attack patterns beyond the later game enemies being faster and having more health. I would say that it's pretty easy to avoid being attacked altogether if you just move out of the way before the enemy strikes and then go in to get a couple more hits and repeat. Combat is pretty basic, where you're using your tools to attack, and upgrading them will deal a little bit more damage. Enemies respawn daily, so if you revisit an area that you've already been to, you'll find the same enemies in their usual location. They're pretty easy to avoid if you're not a fan of combat, as you can run past them, and if you go far enough away from their range, they will disengage from chasing you and return to their spots. You can also hide in the tall grass to avoid combat as well, and craft shoes that give you more movement speed to help outrun your pursuers. Winter Burrow has an accessibility feature for arachnophobia, which turns spiders into ants. If you're not into the 8-legged ones, then you can turn them into 6-legged ones instead. This is only a visual change, as the ants will still drop everything that a spider will drop. I finished Winter Burrow at around 7.3 hours of play. I still have some locked achievements that involve crafting furniture sets and exterminating 100 total bugs, but beyond that there are no requests to do and no story left to be told. So even though this game did not make it to 10 hours, I can see how you can reach 10 hours of gameplay by going through the story at a slower pace or focusing on decorating your burrow a bit more than I did. I think where it ended was good, since the gameplay loop was starting to get repetitive for me, and going back and forth from animal friends in different zones and my burrow could get tedious, since the game does not have a fast travel option and the enemies respawn daily. I do think the ending was a bit abrupt for me. The gameplay started out like a storybook of this little mouse going to different zones to to make friends. And just like a children's book, the ending was rather short, and the game felt as though it came to a sudden stop. I didn't succumb to the cold during my time with Winter Burrow, but I did try to do it right after I finished the game to see what would happen. If you're not into difficult survival games, then you will be most pleased to know that it takes a very long time for your little mouse to pass out, as after all of your warmth meter is depleted, you do not die right away, but rather your health starts going down. Once your health reaches 0 and you have taken no action to get warm or supplement your health at this point, then your mouse will drop the items that they were holding and pass out. Luckily, your mouse is pretty hardy and they will make their way back to the burrow ready for more adventuring, even if it is without the items you were carrying. It seems like they don't drop everything in their backpacks, since I still had a campfire kit inside of my inventory when I tested this out. The punishment for dying isn't too bad, as you can also just go back to where you last passed out and pick up all the items that were dropped, so you can continue like nothing even happened. Now that I finished the game, here are some things that I liked and things that I wish the game did differently. I like the graphics in this game so much, and it gives me major storybook vibes. Even though the game is set entirely in winter, there are variations between the different zones that you can go to, and lots of foliage that match the season. I love how the plant silhouettes drape over the foreground, which gives you a good sense of scale in terms of how small your mouse friend is, and also depth and immersion into the story of this little mouse who's going around to help others during the winter. I like the music and the sounds in the game generally. The music fits very well with the vibes of exploration and winter. It sets the atmosphere as something more whimsical rather than frightening. In the meantime, you hear the crunching of your mouse's feet on the snow, the breath of your little mouse as they run, and the warm cackling of the fireplace as you get back from the cold is just very satisfying. Even though I know this is not a very popular opinion, I like that there's no map in this game. I generally know where I'm going, and that's because of how the zones are blocked off, and you end up having to go through zones multiple times, so you organically start to remember the layout of different areas and slowly unlock more of the map as you upgrade your tools to open up new areas to explore. I really like that navigation comes easily, since I hate remembering things and usually love relying on my minimap in other games to know where I'm going. It really helps that you can see your mouse footprints in the snow to see where you have come from as well, so that is definitely helpful to get back to where I was without having to just solely rely on a map to know where I'm going. I would say that it's very satisfying to be able to make your way back home because you know the area very well. I like that you can unlock furniture through completing quests or finding their recipes while out exploring, and I like that you can decorate your little burrow with different furniture styles that you find. I really like that you can craft from your storage box, and also having items in your storage box count for quests that require materials during your exploration. Although you cannot give materials unless it's on your body or backpack during the explorations, at least you're able to tell that you have the necessary materials ready at home. It doesn't seem like items will disappear if you leave them on the ground, so if you do not have any inventory space, it's okay to leave them there and come back to it later. I've shoveled up items and dropped many items on the map that I would casually pass for days without anything happening to them. I'm not sure if the game has a limit to how long items stay on the map, but I sure haven't reached that limit if there is one through the entire time that I've played the game. I'm not sure how it is for the Switch or Xbox, but on PC, the UI is really big to me, and I wish there was an option to make it smaller. The quest information that appears on screen covers up a decent chunk of it, and sometimes the quest descriptions are not very helpful. In the beginning, there was a quest to learn from my auntie. However, the quest itself did not give me instructions on how to do this, despite taking up so much of my screen. You're not able to hide the main quest on your UI, so it does hang out there for quite some time while you're trying to figure out a way to complete it. I think that it would be so great if there was an option to toggle it on and off or just hide it for a little bit of time. I do wish that there was more variation in furniture that you can use to decorate. I appreciate the different furniture sets that you're able to get. However, I would love to see more knickknacks, rugs, decorative planters, things that you can put on the walls, and other things that you can craft to make your burrow just a little bit more special. I already finished the story before I reached the 10-hour mark. I don't think that I'll be returning anytime soon to Winter Burrow, and that's really just okay with me. I enjoy the experience that I had with it, and I'm eager to move on to other games in my backlog. Not every game has to consume a lot of time, although the asking price of $19.99 USD might be a little steep for some people with the amount of content that is currently available in the game. There are plenty of other games I know which are around the same price point that definitely will occupy your time for much longer and have more complex gameplay loops. However, if you want to dip your toes into the survival genre without most of the stress that comes with it, I think that Winter Burrow is a great place to start. It's not too difficult to the point of frustration, and it does get easier once you have the ability to create campsites, make foods that increase your warmth and other stats, and upgrade your gear a little bit more. It also helps that the enemy patterns are very predictable to the point where you never have to really get hit when you're fighting, and the penalty for dying is very minimal. So I definitely would recommend it if you don't have the time to dip into a big open world survival game, or you just really like the premise of helping animals with their problems and creating connections with them that they've forgotten from the past in this wintry setting. Well, there you have it. What do you think of Winter Burrow? Have you played the game before, or are you thinking about playing it now after this review? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I just really love knowing what side of the fence you ended up on after seeing the review. And of course, if you like what I do and you want to see more, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. It really helps out my channel and hopefully introduces my content to more people that may want to see a review about Winter Burrow and other cozy games. If you made it all the way here, I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in the next 10-1-10. Take care. Bye.